The paint is flawless. The interior still smells fresh. Everything feels untouched. Then you crouch down to admire the tires, and you notice something strange. Tiny rubber hairs sticking out all over the surface. They look fragile, almost unfinished, like the tire wasn't fully trimmed at the factory. And suddenly you wonder, are they important? Are they supposed to be there? Or did something go wrong? Before we get into it, if you enjoy simple explanations about the things you see every day but rarely question, make sure to subscribe and leave a like. It really helps the channel. Now here's the surprising truth behind those tiny rubber hairs. Most people assume those little hairs must serve a purpose. Maybe they improve grip. Maybe they help during the break-in period. Maybe there's some kind of safety indicator. But here's what surprises most people. They do absolutely nothing for performance. Those tiny rubber strands are actually a byproduct of how tires are manufactured. To understand them, you have to understand what happens inside a tire mold. A tire doesn't start as a solid object. It begins as layers of rubber, fabric, and steel belts carefully assembled together. Then this unfinished tire is placed inside a massive steel mold. The mold has the tread pattern carved into it. When the mold closes, extreme heat and pressure are applied. The rubber expands and is forced outward into every tiny groove of the mold. But here's the key detail most people don't know. Air gets trapped inside, and trapped air is a problem. If the air has nowhere to escape, the tire would develop bubbles, weak spots, or structural defects. So, manufacturers design tiny vent holes throughout the mold, microscopic channels that allow air to escape as the rubber expands. And when the rubber is pushed into those vent holes, it forms tiny little strands. Those strands become the rubber hairs you see. This is where most people get confused, because the hairs look intentional. They're evenly spaced, they're consistent, they almost look engineered for a purpose, but they're not. They're excess material. They don't improve traction, they don't increase durability, they don't make the tire safer. In fact, they start wearing off the moment you begin driving. After just a few miles, friction against the road grinds them down completely, which means if you still see them clearly, the tire is essentially brand new. So do they matter at all? Not for performance, but they do tell you something interesting. They're a visible reminder of the precision behind modern manufacturing. Each tiny hair represents a vent hole that prevented a defect. Without those microscopic escape routes, your tire wouldn't be as strong or as reliable. So while the hairs themselves are useless once the tire is finished, the process that creates them is absolutely essential. The next time you see those tiny rubber hairs on a brand new tire, you'll know they're not there for grip. They're not there for safety. They're not even meant to last. They're simply the visible trace of air escaping during manufacturing. A tiny leftover from a massive industrial process happening behind the scenes. And once you understand that, you start seeing everyday objects differently, because even the smallest details often hide a bigger story. If you enjoyed this explanation, leave a like, share it with someone who loves random facts, and subscribe for more simple things explained, because sometimes the simplest things hide the most misunderstood truths.